You are listening to Proof Text, a Glossa House podcast exploring Scripture with Dr. T. Michael W. Halcomb and Dr. Frederick J. Long. Welcome and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Proof Text. I'm Michael Halcomb and I'm here with my friend James Michael Smith, the Disciple Dojo. And Jim, you're about ready to embark on a jiu-jitsu cruise. We don't got to talk a long time about that, but tell us just a word. This is the first I've ever heard of a jiu-jitsu cruise. So what's that look like?
Well, basically, it's an excuse for people that teach and train jiu-jitsu to get together on a boat and hang out and train and teach. And then when they're not training and teaching, to just hang out on a cruise. So it's kind of I call it a working vacation, because in the mornings and the evenings, I'm getting thrown around and choked and learning all kinds of stuff from world champions. And then in the afternoons and after that, you just get to relax on the boat in the Caribbean. So it's kind of the equivalent would be those tours that people like David Da Silva do, where they teach about the Greco-Roman world while you're cruising in the Mediterranean. Similar to that, but with more choking and throwing and arm locks.
Man, that's great. Excellent. So this is one of our 10 questions episodes where we interrogate scripture, and we just pick usually a verse that people have heard or at least heard out of context, and we ask some questions of it. And the whole point of this, if you're watching or listening, is just to help engender and nurture curiosity among you as scripture readers and students of scripture. So let's get to it. JM doesn't know what verse I've got ready today, but I've got one ready, and here it is. I've got it in the English and Hebrew. If you're looking at the screen, if you're just listening, that's all right. It's Psalm 46:5. JM, do you know this verse?
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah. There you go.
But I'm terrible at memorizing verse numbers, so I'm definitely the worst person to go to for memory verse stuff. I would fail all the Sunday school class quizzes if that were the case.
Here it is. In the NIV translation, we have, God is within her, she will not fall. God will help her at break of day. And I often, I know this is often quoted on social media by some females who might be having a hard time. We're not beating up on females today, but this is kind of one of those inspirational verses. And so I thought it'd be fun to look at this. And just to give us a little bit, well, I don't know, if you want, I can pull up the previous verse, but maybe that'll be a question. So I'll wait. So why don't you, the rule you remember is we each get 5 questions. We cannot give answers. So we're just bringing questions to the text, right? So, what's your first question as you look at this?
My question, so, Bikrava, the second word, is translated in NIV, I think is translating God is within her. And I know that karab is inner parts or inward part or something. It has that sense, like interior. So I would want to know, how is that being used like metaphorically, or is that being used literally in your midst or within you? Like, that's what I would first want to know, is what that sense of that verb is.
Great. That's an excellent question. And something you can really only know or notice by having some grasp of the language, really. Yeah. That it could have the nuance of like midst, for example. I guess my initial question is like, who is the her? Is this referring to like a specific individual? Is it referring to just a generic individual, or not even an individual? Like, who is her?
Yeah, you could see why, especially women, would find comfort in this verse because it's one of those,
Yes.
mentioning a her. God is with her, within her. It's a feminine
Yes.
subject. So it makes sense that would stick out in readers' minds for sure. My second question would be skipping to the second, third, fourth. Ya Azreha, which is translated as God will help her. The fourth or fifth verse, depending on how you do those makefs. This would be, my ears perk up just because of discussions I've had with Carmen Imes and others about this concept of the ezer, the noun that this verb comes from, ezerah. And so what kind of help does this imply? How's this word used elsewhere in Scripture?
Excellent. Yeah, that's a great question. Again, got to know the language to be able to know to notice that sort of thing. So when it says God will help her at break of day, this may sound like a silly question, but if we're going off of the English there, at break of day, is that the only time God will help her?
Out of luck the rest of the day.
Yeah,
in the evening.
Exactly.
Let's see. She will not fall. My questions are all related, obviously, to my preliminary questions all are related to vocabulary and how words are used. And
well, those are important questions.
Well, yeah, because you see when you compare English translations, the New Revised actually has this. I'm looking on my screen because I need bigger. My eyes are bad, so I have to have it big on my screen. But she will not fall in the NIV. If you read the New Revised, it says shall not be moved. And so just comparing those two English translations, that verb baltimot, what does timot mean? To fall, to be moved? That's what I'd want to know why they translated it differently.
My third question would be, what is the context of this, and does the previous verse or the preceding verses help us understand that? So I'm gonna just see. We've seen 46:6, but there's 46:4. So yeah.
Yep. Well, that answers your first question.
How about that?
Let the reader beware.
Yes. He who has ears, or she who has ears, let her hear. He who has ears, let him hear. I think that's my third question, right? So we've each done 3.
Right. So back to me, and I'm looking at break of day. I would want to know along the same lines too of kind of what you're asking, not just the literary context, not just what came before this verse on the page, but when was this psalm written? Was this psalm written while Zion was still standing? Was this psalm written in the exile? When contextually are people singing this song?
Ooh, that's great. Yeah. I guess my fourth question would be, I tend to think of the Psalms as, the five sections or 5 books. And so I want to ask the question, I'm not going to go into that here, but in which section or book of the Psalms does this fall in? And based on that, might we have any clues for how to interpret it, right? It might make a difference if it comes in the second book or first book or third book, right? Because at least in my understanding of the Psalms, I think of them narratively, actually, and so they're telling a story, believe it or not, kind of like a musical is how I view them. And where then does this psalm fit also within the wider story that the 5 books of the Psalms are telling? So that's a long way to get to it, but that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Where does this psalm fall within the wider story of the book it falls in, and then the wider story of the Psalms?
All right. My 5th question would be kind of related to that in terms of the overall structure of the Psalms, but more specifically, and this is just something that some people might not even know that this is a thing. This verse is actually Psalm 46:6 in the Hebrew text and in the Septuagint, not 46:5. So I would want to know what's up. Why did they break? Why are the verses different in the English versus the original languages? And then depending on how nerdy you want to press, where did that division come from? And but yeah, that would just be a quirky thing that some readers might notice and have question about.
I guess my last question would be along the lines of literary or rhetorical, maybe even poetic devices. I noticed that we have the doubling of Elohim here, but something else I see the Bikirba, and then Baal, and then we have Boker. So I'm wondering, do we have some assonance as well, like the repetition of that letter? My real question is, could this be like a sort of an oral chiasm? I'm really intrigued by the fact that it ends with Boker, right? You have the Beit Kaf Resh, and then up here you have, almost starting the verse, you have the preposition, the Beit Kaf Resh, Beit Ha, Beit Lamed, but really that Beit Kaf Resh, starting the verse and then ending the verse. Is there something going on rhetorically, poetically, literarily there that we need to be aware of?
Yeah, it'd be cool to hear a cantor like pronounce this out loud and how it would be read in the synagogue. Yeah,
indeed. Yeah. Well, those are the 5 questions. Do you have anything else that's pressing before we go?
No, this is a good one because it's a verse that I have not ever looked at the Hebrew in any detail, really. I've read it when I'm reading through Psalms, but I've never stopped and slowed down and taken a real close look at it. So this is a fun exercise for me.
Yeah, this is a great one to see how easy it is to take something out of context and how easy it is to put it right back in, at least in a way, just by looking at the previous, what comes before. So fascinating study. This is one of those like quick ones that just go to make that kind of point. But yeah, well, JM, thanks for the excellent questions, man. Really, really good, insightful. And for those watching, listening, we hope this was interesting for you and piqued your curiosity. Head over to Disciple Dojo. It's .org, right? Or is it .com?
DiscipleDojo.org, or on YouTube, just Disciple Dojo.
There you go. Go over and check that out. Lots of great stuff there. Lots of helpful, practical videos that Jam's putting out. And follow Proof Text, subscribe, and even better, share if you can. So that's it for now. We're going to wrap this up. We'll see you next time. Hope that helps.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? Glossa House can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, Glossa House offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glossahouse.com today. Glossa House, language resources for the global community.